are basically being handled by different components within Zen. So whether ransomware and malware attack prevention. Obviously, between patch and FDE, as well as the security management capabilities within Zen, you're already doing a lot towards working to mitigate the risk of a malware attack on your endpoint devices, and really going that extra step and protecting the information through a backup solution is complementary, and it's a logical partner with the Zen portfolio in order to further strengthen your resiliency against a ransomware attack. So with all of this database, the information-based value at risk, I thought it would be interesting to show what some of the leading industry analysts have found as they go to assess organizations' capabilities of responding to some of these risks that they've encountered. So IDC actually ran a study of organizations who suffered a ransomware attack a while back. And what they were finding were that these organizations that thought that they were prepared for such an attack lacked comprehensive defenses. They lacked continuous data protection model that could save the information, that could protect the information and allow it to be recovered in the case of a ransomware attack. So, organizations thinking that they're protected when the rubber hits the road, when their strategy is actually put to the test, are finding that that they're not prepared as they thought they were. And Gartner, on the other side, makes a statement of organizations basically trying to repurpose, in this case, personal cloud types of solutions as data protection solutions. And Gartner is advising their customers that they shouldn't be trying to pinch pennies or save money, trying to repurpose a less than purpose-built solution for enterprise endpoint backup. Personal cloud types of solutions serve a certain purpose, and they're sort of owned and operated, if you will, by end users. They're by no means a replacement for the enterprise-grade protection that the companies require to mitigate risk.
So not only did we have, I mean, I remember if you got viruses or you had some issues with the device, and whether it's just troubleshooting, trying to fix something, you weigh the amount of time of restore versus, I mean, reimaging. Reimaging used to be it, but now we can actually get more granular with this backup strategy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And agility as well as flexibility is key here, and that's what we're offering with an enterprise endpoint backup solution. The capability for a user, particularly a mobile user who has the freedom and may have the requirement to access information from multiple devices to do so. So, granular restore capabilities allows an individual to zero in on the files that they have most recently utilized, or the one particular file that they need to retrieve at a moment's notice or in a just-in-time type of situation, instead of basically waiting for sort of a wholesale reimage and restore of information
Sure.
from previous device, if it is even available at any in that particular case.
Right, true
Uh,
that. And especially being remote, it takes that much longer if you're doing a reimage or that type of recovery.
Correct, and obviously from a self-service standpoint, reimaging is a non-starter in a lot of cases. We're talking about more, you know, non-technical users who just need access to their information.
Sure.
They need to stay in the productivity.
Hmm.
Um,
Great,
but
thank you for that.
the Yeah, sure, Paul. So the ineffective backup strategies. I mean, particularly something like a OneDrive. As I touched upon before, it's dependent upon end user behavior. It's dependent upon users doing the right thing, doing it continuously, and doing it consistently. So we're talking about one user, and we're talking about one user doing these things properly and always doing them. If you multiply that by 10,000, what you're going to end up with, relying upon end users to do the right thing, is a very uneven level of protection across the environment. It's going to leave you as an organization wondering, okay, well, how well equipped am I to recover from a data loss event of any scope or within any location? So the dependency upon end user behavior, even well-intentioned users, is basically a failing of the use of a personal cloud type of technology as a substitute for enterprise endpoint backup. This is not your end user's job function. It's similar to ask let's say from the Zen perspective, it's similar to asking all of your users to apply the right patches and to do it, continuously into the future. I mean, what could possibly go wrong there? Same thing with backup. So the dependency upon end user behavior is a real problem. So isn't the lack of administrative control. So this is an organizational problem. This is an enterprise problem. The enterprise needs to manage it, and the way to do that is through administrative control. So things like um, administrative, centrally managed policies for ensuring what gets backed up and what does not get backed up. Um, there are also inherent limitations to something like a OneDrive, which was designed for Microsoft files on Microsoft devices and is optimized accordingly. So OneDrive and other backup solutions that are less than enterprise ready are more location based versus information based. So OneDrive would have you drag a file into a particular location or always maintain files within a particular location. So if you're interested in protecting all Office stocks, for example, um, OneDrive doesn't give you a policy definition that would allow you to specify, hey, regardless of where they live on my device, I want all Office stocks protected. Instead, they're saying we're going to look in this location for Office stocks and protect them. So it doesn't give the flexibility and the coverage, the device wide coverage that's required in order to ensure that the right information is protected. There are also file size and type restrictions, as well as inadequate capabilities from a a network optimization standpoint. So mobility means users on different networks, users with variable bandwidth at their disposal, and really what you need, especially if you're talking about a significant amount of information to protect on these devices, you need a product that is purpose built and optimized for the challenges that are presented by wide area networks. So minimal bandwidth or spotty network connections. Um, Administrative support as well. We talked about a little earlier. We said, okay, we have a lot of non-technical users. There's no way that they're going to be able to reimage their own systems. Similarly, you're going to have end users who require assistance in finding files that they need to recover in a just-in-time scenario. You're going to have executives who should not be spending their time trying to either back up or recover certain files that they, for whatever reason, don't have possession of. So administrative support in terms of assisting in a recovery, whether that is on behalf of an end user or on behalf of a business process such as e-discovery is really important. And lastly, retention. Um, the retention on these personal cloud products is sort of a one size fits all. So for how long do we keep the information that we're backing up? Well, that's going to depend upon the type of user within your organization, as well as the requirements that that accompany the information being protected. Is it privacy related data? Is it customer data? Is it financial data? So a flexible retention capabilities is very important to meet the compliance needs to which your company is responsive to. So in essence, what our customers need today is a solution that allows the business to ensure that the right information is being protected. Um, it allows accessibility not only to the end user, but also to the organization in general. The information belongs to the organization. It needs to be useful and usable to the organization as much as it does the end user whose device the information may have been authored on. And this information needs to be properly protected. I mean, this is essentially the crown jewels of your business. You need to protect this information with enterprise grade security capabilities as well as manageability capabilities. And that's what we're offering here with Connected. Connected does offer that continuous as well as assured data protection, and it does so in a cloud-based offering, thereby removing the management and in much of the systems administration capabilities that would come along with an on-prem deployment. So Connected is highly optimized for both the protection of data, so the backup of information, as well as the accessibility to that information. And when we talk about accessibility, again, there are two different consumers of this information. So at a micro level, you have end users who want access to their information to optimize their productivity. They want access to information from the multiple devices that they're utilizing to perform their job function. But in parallel with that, you have mainly driven by compliance as well as administrative assistance. You have the business who needs access to this information at a macro level. So think about a pre-collected store of information that is representative of the information stored on 10,000 mobile devices scattered to the ends of the world. There's a lot of value there to the organization looking across that corpus of information for anything that's responsive to compliance or business requirements. So it's very powerful for the organization to have use and be able to make useful this consolidated store of information that is otherwise unreachable in many cases. And the assurance comes through capabilities on the back end to provide that intelligence, to provide that visibility and accessibility to information. And what that yields is control. And the underpinnings of this are the enterprise security framework that we'll go into in a little bit more detail in a few moments here.
That's exciting, and I think that you bring up a good point as far as um, devices, spread out all globally. I mean, you go into a meeting with your tablet, and then you go back to your office, and you have, your work session, and then you have your phone, and losing any one of those components could, throw that meeting off as far as getting those details. So, yeah, this solution looks very interesting for that.
Hmm. Absolutely. So I'm going to walk you through sort of the phases of sort of the enterprise endpoint backup um, life cycle, if you will. So, foundationally, it all starts with assurance and control that the information that you need protected is actually protected. So when you go to deploy the connected solution, you have the ability to select from a set of best practice policies that we've provided, and also to tailor those. But through a couple of basically mouse clicks, you're able to create and deploy a, I'll call it a locked backup policy that is going to be the basis for that assurance that you have a grip on all of the information that your organization needs to have protected through this policy. So the policies provide this user-proof assurance of data protection. And without that, nothing else downstream matters from an accessibility standpoint, security and compliance. So data protection is job one here. And these policies can be very granular in information. So it goes to that, okay, let's look at the information. The information is really what's important here. It's not the location. It really doesn't serve me value to say, okay, well, I've backed up everybody's desktop. Really, what you want to be able to make a statement of is that you've backed up, all Office docs and PDFs, as well as, let's say, something specific to your organization, such as CAD drawings or intellectual property related files. So information based, used in conjunction or in parallel with location based policies, gives you the ultimate flexibility to include as well as exclude. So it's important for you to be able to filter out sort of the noise, or in some cases, what is personal. So in many countries, there are data privacy laws that are protecting the end users. So you should not be backing up what is personal to a user. And again, the information-based policies give you flexibility to include as well as exclude. The policies can be locked, therefore they can't be overridden by the end users. You may choose to allow end users to supplement locked policies. So in addition to that Office Docs policy, you could give the user the ability to contribute additional group or user specific information to the backup. But again, that's the amount of control that you give to end users is a choice that Connected gives you the ability to make and implement. And based upon the fact that one size does not fit all, you're able to deploy policies based upon a hierarchical level. So you have your organization hierarchy mirrored within Connected, and to that you can deploy policies, so a finance policy, a policy for your field sales organizations, and so on. So there's a tremendous amount of flexibility here to ensure that you know what you're going to protect across, again, tens of thousands of devices. So the next step here is, okay, well, we've deployed these policies. How do we make sure that that those policies are actioned upon? And that's where our backup agents come into play. So we do deploy an agent on each protected device. And this agent runs a continuous mode of backup. So there is absolutely zero end user interaction with the software here. The backup process is triggered based upon file events. So every time a file is created or updated or deleted, it triggers a cataloging of that file as something that needs to be acted on by the backup. And within a 15-minute interval, in the case that a file needs to be backed up, that file will actually be backed up. But as part of the backup process itself, there are a number of different things that go on. First of all is the basically a reduction of a file into individual blocks and the encryption of that data at the block level. So we'll break down a file into blocks, we'll encrypt it, and we'll perform block level data deduplication. So we'll do that on the source side. And what that does is by doing it on the source side of the PC side, it reduces the amount of information that ultimately is going to need to be transmitted over the wire, thus making it a lot quieter, a lot more efficient in wide area network situations, especially situations where bandwidth is at a premium. Compression is also a further optimization that is made on the source side to ensure that optimization ensures basically success over even the most constrained bandwidth conditions. There are some additional selections within a policy that you can make to accommodate, let's say, constrained bandwidth associated with, let's say, a remote office or a very, very remote office. So you could, where bandwidth is at a premium, you could select a policy that would throttle network utilization for either the backup process or any sort of restore processes as well to ensure that other solutions, business solutions requiring network bandwidth are properly served. There's also metered network policies to ensure that mobile devices aren't backing up over 3 and 4G connections or subscription types of connections to which a cost could be associated. Um, in a case where you disable the backup over those metered or subscription connections, the agent will basically wait until a wireless access point is available or the device is connected to a LAN. To support a, let's say, an image type of backup, which would include not only data but also personalization settings. We have an integration with Microsoft's USMT tool that will allow us to both back up the USMT files as well as to restore and apply those. So this is a point of complement to ZENworks you know, towards basically a full image and data restore of a device.
So whole to
From
granular.
correct.
Yeah, that's nice.
And from a manageability standpoint, so it is an agent on every single device. So it can be scalably deployed through ZENworks. So our MSI and packages can be pushed out via ZENworks, and any updates to the agents can be fully automated. So this really can fit nicely within the way that you're using ZENworks to provision endpoint devices with necessary applications and required applications from a business standpoint.
And it looks
Uh,
like it's across the different platforms as well.
mhm, Yep.
Yep, yep. And
And
so,
it is a,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Paul.
And so, one of the questions I think most of us have as administrators is, yeah, it has an agent on every device, but what's the load and is it on login or can I delay that? I mean, what are the different are there factors that you can adjust so that you can lighten the load on activity, CPU, and RAM?
So it's a Delta backup. So it really it only operates when it needs to, and it only operates at in the scope that is necessary. So if it's a single file, it's only that single file that's processed. So you have a full or initial backup, and everything subsequent to that is incremental. So it's
Deltas.
not something that you're going to see. When your system starts up, it's going to fire up let's say, a scan process and try to back up, or it's not something that you're going to see at a particular time of the day. It runs a single daily backup that's running essentially in catch-up mode
Okay.
from the previous day or beyond. So our model here is to back up more frequently, but only in the scope that's required to get the job done. And that's been incredibly successful from an end user experience, from a non-intrusiveness standpoint. Um, that said, when that first backup kicks off, you can manage it. You can assign throttle up and down the number of threads that are kicked off to execute that initial backup. Um, some organizations want to get it done as quickly as possible. Thus, they'll crank up the number of threads, while others will say, "I just want to run basically um, a lazy backup, initial backup, over the course of a day. So I'll leave it at a single thread."
Sure.
Um, so it cuts in both directions.
Sure. And of course, the bulk is going to be the initial one, and then it being so granular, if you focus in on just files or a folder, then that time frame is even less than,
Hmm
and being that it's deltas. So yes,
Yep.
understand. That's great.
And based upon the endpoint nature of it, this is all run in parallel. So in some of our larger deployments, we've had customers who were basically, deploying 15,000 agents in a single push, and not having any issues from a network standpoint, and obviously, each PC operating and processing independently, allowed that that initial sync to take place, very quickly and in a um, parallel mode. So we've deployed a policy, and the agent has performed in a highly optimized manner, and now we have our information, and thus we're able, we're prepared, and we're able to execute on recovery or accessibility. And there are various use cases that come into play here that we want to be able to execute on. So just speaking to, let's say, the ransomware type of use case and response, what you're seeing on the right-hand side here are calendar and time based controls, UI controls that would allow either an end user or an administrator to select a period in time, a restore point, if you will, prior to a data loss event. And basically what happens here is that we're actually able to show the user or the administrator the state of the system at that point in time, allow them to actually click in and render file content before they decide to perform a restore. So putting that intelligence ahead of a data movement event, so allowing people to say, okay, well, this looks like what I need. I want to open it to ensure that it's what I need before I pull that down in a restore. That's very powerful. It gives you the ability to be very precise in terms of what you're moving and what you may be creating copies of. It reduces the amount of unnecessary data proliferation and data redundancy within an organization, which in turn lowers risk. Less information scattered in many different places, less risk. So point in time data restore is very important. You have multiple restore points within a day based upon the continuous data protection. So you could say at 4 o'clock, you say, well, this Excel spreadsheet I've been working on, it has all sorts of issues. I want to revert back to that which I had prior to lunch today. You'd be able to see all of the available restore points. Select the 11:45 a.m. Restore point and revert back to that, or at least get access to that, not necessarily revert and basically retroactively override the changes you'd made since, but you could basically do a redirected restore of that file to an adjacent location, and basically run a comparison between what you had this morning and what you have right now.
Without having to
For
get IT involved even. So
exactly.
self-help. That's nice.
Yeah. Right. And with all of us working at bizarre times of the day, it seems,
Yep.
based upon our newly found freedom, the help desk is not the most efficient option. So it's important for us to be able to offer that self-service as well as allow administrators to assist and to give each a very intuitive interface and flexible interface to ensure that they're able to find and to restore the data as required. In the situation where you are looking to recover, instead of forcing you to recover, let's say 30 gigs of data, which could take some time, we can allow you to do a more flexible prioritized restore of only those files that you've utilized most recently. Um, so basically give you the files that you've most recently worked on first, and allow the rest of that information to remain in the backup until such a time, maybe it's over the weekend, maybe it's later tonight, that you want to restore basically the balance of that information. Or maybe it's 2 weeks from now. In that sense, our back end behaves somewhat like cloud storage. You can keep the information there and you can have accessibility to it. Um, we're not forcing you to always maintain your entire corpus of useful information on any of the multiple devices that you may have associated with your user profile. Um, Administrators who are looking to assist in a restore, let's say a large restore, can actually push a restore to agents. So you as an administrator don't need to remote into a device. You don't need control over a device. You could basically just say, I want to, I want, let's say, the CEO's agent to restore the following folder or folders or the following files. And with a push of a button, what you're doing is you're essentially sending a notification out to the CEO's machine, and that will pick it up, as soon as it's connected to the internet. And based upon that, the machine will recover on its own, without any involvement of the CEO. The CEO is just going to be looking at his folder and he'll see it populated with the files that the administrator has prescribed the restore to act on. Uh, from time to time, users move from one device to another. Device refresh occurs. So for that, we have capabilities to do the data migration. So basically utilize the backup as a secure mechanism, a secure go-between um, from a legacy device, whether or not that device is even still powered on or active. The backup basically acts as sort of a surrogate that contains the information uh, of that legacy device. And from there, again, you could basically migrate that data as well as the backup account to the new refresh device. I mentioned before the accessibility capability, so from multiple devices. So you can access your information from a browser, from a mobile device. You don't have to download information, you can preview it. And if that's enough for you, that you're basically reading a file online and don't need to download it, all the better. So giving you that intelligence and eliminating the need to move data, again, is important. And for e-discovery types of requirements, or archiving types of requirements, we also have a scalable data recovery capability that would allow an authorized administrator the ability to feed in a number of accounts or a number of users and their devices, and allow the information associated with those users and devices to be exported at scale to a retrieval location that the administrator can specify. So maybe a network drive, and maybe a certain staging location for which subsequent compliance or e-discovery early case assessment or indexing takes place. But the goal here is to support the scalable need for data to serve business purposes such as e-discovery and compliance.
Great.
So there are a lot of capabilities.
I do have a question. I thought we lost chat altogether with that glitch, but um, we do have a question in chat that asks, are there any plans to incorporate the connected into Zen policies? And second part of that is, if so, will there be a Zen adaptive agent version of connected, so enable services based on policy within ZCC?
Yeah, so we have done some, I'll say, preliminary work um, to basically um, enable policies to be integrated. Because it obviously makes a lot of sense to do that. I mean, the backup policy should be akin to a security policy or configuration policy and manageable through the central authority, which would be Zen. So we haven't productized that. It's something that we're looking to prioritize in future releases. So keep your eyes open for more information regarding a tighter um, um, a tighter working model between connected and Zen.
The other products. Yeah, thank you. There's another one in here, and if you're going to cover this, you can just feel free to mention that because I think you might be. But Kurt has a question about ransomware and how the backup functions, and I think you're going to display a little bit of that. But if if he says so, if ransomware encrypts files, does the connected software then back up those files, and now your backup is encrypted and not accessible?
Your backup, well, let's separate files from backup.
Okay.
So your backup is not encrypted. So this is not, and actually this is another difference between, let's say, a sort of a file store, which personal cloud type of solution is, versus what we're doing with the backup. So the backup, our backup would actually back up those files that are encrypted and thus locked. But what we do is we store blocks and we store individual file assets, and there's no spread of of ransomware from, let's say, one block or file to another. So what you would end up with would be that um, the the last revision or the most recent revision of a file would be encrypted, but that wouldn't impact your ability to basically use that calendar icon that we're showing here to go back 4 hours and see and retrieve the unencrypted files. So you would have the ability to immediately, let's say, using a, um, a secondary device or a phone to basically just say, all right, well, I'm going to go and back to yesterday and view my files as they existed prior to the ransomware attack, and then I can basically restore using that restore point to a new device if necessary, and will basically eradicate the encrypted revisions of those files.
Gotcha.
So it is protected against spoilage related to a ransomware attack.
Gotcha. That's the only questions I have so far. Thank you.
Okay. So measuring success is a very important part of this. So you always, from an assurance standpoint, don't take our word for it, or no one ever would take our word for it. They want to see operational as well as content analytics that will allow them at any point in time to gain that confidence or to deliver a report that gives others, let's say management, confidence that the organization is prepared um, based upon the systematic policy-based approach to data protection. So we have several report dashboards as well as we offer API-based access to all of our reporting capabilities that will allow you at any point in time to see progress as well as current state of your backup deployment. So as you're rolling out the solution, we talked about that first backup, maybe taking a little bit of time. Let's say you roll out to 5,000 devices. We'll give you a dashboard representation of which devices have completed that first backup and which are in progress, and allow you to drill in and see details, as far as what is remaining to be protected for, certain devices. Um, but ideally, what you'll see is you'll see basically green, showing that all of your devices have achieved that initial backup, and thus they're all in delta or incremental mode, and you're in good shape for recovery. Um, Additionally, we're able to give you a view of what type of information is being backed up, and this allows you to vet or to validate the effectiveness of the policies that you have deployed for enterprise backup. So the metadata search capabilities give you a lot of different ways to slice and dice information. Again, APIs have been exercised by customers to do integrations with solutions such as Power BI. We have a lot of people using Microsoft's Power BI right now, and integrating the backup KPIs with other IT information into a broader dashboard to support their governance requirements. So there's a lot of flexibility from a reporting standpoint to give you that peace of mind at any point that your organization is protected and ready. And then security, we're possible from a management standpoint, as well as a security standpoint. We integrate the the capabilities of your enterprise. So since it's a user-based solution implementation, we do have authentication requirements, and those authentication requirements are fulfilled through federated authentication. So we can use the Micro Focus advanced authentication or access manager, or any SAML-based authentication infrastructure we can integrate with to redirect anything authentication related to the customer organization's source of identity, allowing multi-factor authentication, single sign-on to take place with this particular product. In addition, we talked about a little earlier the organizational hierarchy that we mirror within Connected that would allow you to deploy policies flexibly. They'd also allow you to deploy administrative capabilities flexibly as well. So you could have a different administrator for um, different aspects of your group, geographically, by business unit, or what have you. So delegation of administrative responsibilities by task is possible here through integration and interoperability with your organizational context from AD or LDAP. All information in motion and at rest is encrypted with a AES 256-bit algorithm. So that's basically the standard these days. The encryption process is actually multi-level. Data is encrypted at that block level, but it's essentially re-encrypted a number of different times over with different keys in order to ensure that the optimal level of protection. And the encryption starts at that source, at the PC level, and follows through all the way through to data at rest. We also do have an option actually to allow customers to manage encryption keys, and that would further offer companies who are sensitive data sovereignty considerations to basically have physical custody of the encryption keys that secure information within our cloud. So, how do we assure that we are secure? We're run through a number of our services. Our SaaS solutions are run through a number of different audit processes, standards such as ISO 27001, SOC 2. Those are all certifications that are required of our solutions by our customers, and that we are audited by external auditors for compliance too on an annual basis. So that's the end of our slide deck, and I wanted to take a couple of minutes and just run through a quick demo of the product so you can see what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to go through it quickly, two different perspectives. First, I'm going to log into the console as an administrator to show you some of the policy capabilities that we discussed. So this particular demo environment is not integrated with a federated authentication, so it's using native application authentication, username and password. So as an administrator, as I log in, I'm seeing that customer hierarchy. So this is my customer, and here are a number of groups, and under that, users. So you can see here that we do have a sort of a nested hierarchy of groups, and then within those groups, your users are actually present. I could easily, interactively, I could add either a new group or a new user very easily here, or I could also do this through either an API or what we call an import user tool that could actually take a CSV read from your source of identity and pre-populate and maintain that hierarchy. So it can be completely automated. But once we get that group hierarchy set, it's time to deploy policies. We talked about the backup policies, but policies fall into actually there are different types of policies here, which go beyond backup. So your agent configuration, your retention, so for how long do we keep this information, as well as system resource consumption, things like bandwidth utilization can all be controlled here at either the corporate level or at the group level or some combination of both. So if I take a look at it, this data-only policy, you see a number of settings at the top here, and some of these settings go towards that, how does the agent software behave? Can I throttle it? Can I affect how how aggressive it is, or how passive it is in achieving that first backup? So the smart scan technology and the express backup, those are examples of how we can allow the behavior of the backup to be tuned to whatever the customer's requirements are. I should also say that we are a service on a Windows device, and as a PC boots, or as a Windows device boots, there are a lot of services trying to start. So we do give the ability to actually delay the start of our service, and we figure that we're doing the organization, the customer organization, a favor by allowing them to control the behavior of our solution. We think all applications, where possible, should also um, be so flexible. But we really want to allow the organization to have as much control over the behavior of the agent as possible. Um, Now, what you see under those settings there are a number of rules, if you will. So this is actually, what is it that we're backing up? So you can see here that we're backing up the OneDrive folder. Um, we're also backing up financial files. So these are your information-based policies. You can see that this supplied file listing, or file group, if you will, um, encapsulates a number of different file extensions. So this is how we're looking for financial information, similarly data files, as well as documents. So these are system supplied sort of best practices that can be supplemented, or you can create your own custom policies here as well. And I'll actually show you by creating a new draft of this policy. So I'm editing the policy. So now you see include the OneDrive folder. I could click on the pencil here, and I could see additional capabilities here, or additional selections. So through this, I could add documents, or I could add compressed files, if you will. But if that's too broad a a selection, um, I could also look at more file groups. Or I could actually create a custom rule that would allow me to specify a platform, could be Windows, Mac, or could be both, um, that rule cuts across. Here's your folder path, file name, as well as extensions. Um, you have type ahead here as well. So it's very easy for policies to be customized and fine tuned to whatever the requirements of the organization are. And similarly, where the blue are includes, the red are excludes. So we don't want virtual machine files, or a number of other different types of file types clogging up the backup. And you see a lock icon on these rules. The dark is locked. The broken is unlocked, and unlocked means that this can be overridden by a subsequent policy. So for anything that is near and dear or required to be backed up, you obviously want locked. Um, so as your policies are, actually, if I save that policy, it would immediately be sent out via a push notification to all of the agents, and those agents would start working towards whatever the modified policy is. So once that's done, basically as an administrator, you'd have the ability um, to report. Uh, so I can report on user accounts here. Get rid of this. Just run this. Here are the users. And for any of, I'm actually the admin user here. So for any of the end users, I can actually drill in and I can view the user's device. I have search at my disposal here, so if I wanted to look for a particular file for this user, I could see that, okay, well, we have two files in different location, or two file in a particular location that match the search criteria. And if at this point in time I'm wondering, I want one of these, I'm just not sure which one, this would give me the ability to pop that file open, view, yes, it was the chest x-ray that I was looking for. And again, this gives me the ability to then say, all right, this is the one that I definitely want. I can either download it. So this is a straight web download. So you'll see at the bottom of my browser, you'll see it being downloaded. Or I can restore it. So again, I'm an administrator. So I'm configuring a restore that will be executed by the user on behalf of whom I'm working, their agent on their machine, wherever it is. So I can queue this up, or I could start it now. I'd have the capability of specifying the original location or a custom location. And if there are conflicts, I can choose how to deal with those conflicts. So I'm not going to do that right now, but that's how easy it is. If someone calls the help desk with a particular problem, the search capabilities allow an administrator to quickly identify, okay, here's the file that I need for this particular user, push it out to them. Again, no remoting. If the user's machine is not online, that's fine. Once the machine comes online, it'll automatically pick up the restore and execute the restore request. So that's the flow of that administrative restore. There are other reports available here that allow both the management as well as the uh, the the access to information. So everything is audited. So if you're looking for a report on any restores that took place, or any administrative actions that were performed, those are all available to support compliance. You also have a search files capability that would allow an administrator properly authorized to look for, let's say a smoking gun, uh, file called smoking gun of any size. I could, search by user or across an entire group. Um, and as simple as that, it would identify all of the responsive files. So if you're ever looking to see, all right, well, who has a particular file that has been deemed to be problematic, this would give you not only the list of those custodians of that file, but also it would give an authorized administrator, maybe a legal administrator, uh, access to that actual content. So the user experience is quite intuitive here. It's very straightforward. What we want to do is we want to show you exactly the information that you need to ensure that information is protected as you desire and as you require. So with that, I'm just going to flip over to the end user side of things. So it's a similar user experience. So I've just basically closed that browser. We've minimized the agent UI here. So on the bottom here, there's a task bar application. And so from an end user who is basically looking at the restored files folder here and is not seeing what it is that I need, basically, I could basically go to my icon or my application here, and with that selection, it's going to deliver me to my backup set for this particular device. So if I had multiple devices, it would go to the to the appropriate device from which I'm launching this command. Okay, there we are. So I could do the same thing, similar thing here, or I could basically, okay, see users. Let's go down to here. All right. So here's the file that I don't seem to have access to. If there was a version history, I could get that. There is not. So instead, again, I have restore or download. I'm going to restore this. Start now. Okay, so it says a new restore request has started or created and started. You see below on the taskbar icon, the restore has basically notification has been sent from the data center to the agent. And that's what you're seeing, that the agent picked up that restore request and should have executed that. And actually, that's what you end up seeing here. So it's very, very straightforward. And I could have as well, I could have selected multiple files or multiple folders and have that capability. Now, in addition to that, the end user has, through Explorer integration, has the capability of let's say doing right click on folders and either including or excluding. Try this one. All right, let's go to. Okay, so here you see the Explorer integration. So I could basically right click on any folder or any individual file. And if I'm authorized as an end user by my administrators, I could add. So I could supplement any corporate policies by adding this particular folder to my backup or removing it similarly. So if I add that, see what that does to my show backup status. Nothing, because it's already added. Okay. So this is just basically for end users who want to understand, what the status of their backup is. They have that capability through this particular UI. Let me just do this here. Just one last thing here. Edit this file.
So that just shows what's in queue and what's been
Right.
processed. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I just modified this particular file. I'll close it. And if I now go back, show my backup stat, this. It's interesting. Let's see this, add that. Okay. Um, so I must have a policy setting that prevents this folder from being backed up. But what you would see is that that those files, those new files, would be queued up for backup and listed here, and you'd be able to see those be counted down as they were backed up. So um, so anyway, um, okay. So we've showed you the administrative experience as well as the end user experience with the product, and so with that, I'm going to kick it back to the slide. And given the time here, I'd like to open up for any additional questions that may have come in over the course of our presentation.
Yeah, I think I hit them along the way. I don't see any more coming in at this time. Um, of course, those that are in the audience, you can always, if you're reviewing this recording, you can always put it in the comments, and we can get those questions from the recording itself. But you can see a couple of data sheets there for Connected MX, and um, they're in the presentation here. And would you be able to share this presentation, Ed?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So after we do the recording, since we had that glitch, I'm going to put the full recording out tomorrow because it takes 24 hours for it to actually process. So tomorrow you'll see not only my presentation, but Ed's presentation and the full recording out on the site. I apologize for that. But Ed, I want to thank you for sharing your expertise in this arena. It was very thorough. um, Really can see the power behind it, especially in this ransomware world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's a must-have. Well, and experts in the industry agree that in today's ransomware climate, the risk is too great that you need an assured backup solution, not only for your data center but also your endpoint devices.
Oh, sure. Especially with the abundance of remote and at-home workers now that's out there with this pandemic. So,
Hmm.
well, thank you, Ed. I appreciate you taking your time and showing this to us. I think it's very valuable, and I think we can get a lot out of it. And the exposure here is great to see actually how that functions. So, I just want to thank you for your time.
I'd like to thank you for having me, and thanks to all of your loyal listeners here for joining us today.
You bet. Okay, great. Thank you, Ed, and we'll be chatting with you soon. And thanks for sending that presentation out.
Okay, thank you,
All
Paul.
right. Bye now.
Bye.
Okay, so I apologize for that disconnect. We lost chat there for a little while. Um, Also interrupted the stream, so I do have a backup recording, and I will put that out on the training site or on the Microfocus support and training site. And we will see you in 2 weeks. We're going to have Moises Morales doing the ZCM imaging with WinPE. Excited to see that, finalize that part of it, so those that have invested into the imaging can leverage the WinPE portion of it, and hopefully some questions will be asked there. I'm going to work on getting details on that glitch and fix that so that we don't have that interruption again. I apologize again for that. I want to say thank you for joining, and we will be chatting with you in a couple of weeks. Look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.